Hi everyone, I'm Christine Josty of Mail Something Pretty, and I wanted to show you these cards today that use this beautiful thoughtful wishes, thoughtful journey, what's it called? Thoughtful designs paper. The whole suite is thoughtful journey. And it shows, it's just beautifully painted pieces of paper, and so it's actually a little hard to cut up because it is so pretty, but I'm going to show you how we're going to use actually almost the whole sheet on these cards, but they are really pretty. And so you can see it's kind of a form of a Z-fold card, but when you flip it over we're going to use all of the pieces of paper. And so this one kind of uses the same scene that connects. I think this one uses the same scene as well. Oh, all those three use the same scene, and this one I flipped over to the back side. So I'll show you how I did that. And I just think it's a nice, for these you want the paper to shine because it is so pretty, and so you don't want to put too much stuff on top. All right, so let me move those aside here. I have two sheets of paper. I'm actually going to cut both, and I'm going to show you two slight differences, and then we'll kind of choose which one we're going to use because I only have one card base up here, so we'll have to choose which one we're going to do. But first I think we'll just score our card base, and I'm using Misty Moonlight. This is just a half sheet, so 8.5 by 5.5, and then we want to score it like we normally would at 4 1/4. Pretty standard card. But then I also want to score in here because we're going to do this Z fold here. And so that I'm going to score that right in half, which will be 2 1/8. Okay, and so those are the only two score marks we need. And as we fold it, I'm going to fold it like we would for a normal card. Then I'm going to, right on the score line here, I'm going to fold that back. And that creates, you can kind of see a Z. There are so many different types of Z fold cards, but this is just one of the many. All right, so that's kind of our base. So then we need, you can kind of see I did it in slightly different colors, but it's almost the same card. We need, oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to show you this one because this was the first one I did, and I have a thicker bubble bath border here versus this one. You can kind of see the difference. I think this one makes it stand out a little bit more, and I have that skinny little border on here too, so that's what I want to show you. So that measurement, the bubble bath, although I'm going to use mine because I ran out of all the paper that matches a bubble bath, I'm going to use Wild Wheat, but that is 3 5/8 by 5 1/8. So I already have that cut here, 3 5/8 by 5 1/8, and then my pretty peacock, the piece that goes right on top of that, is 3 1/2 by 5. So those are the two measurements. You can use any colors you want, but those, even though that says bubble bath for this one, it's Wild Wheat and peacock. So those are my two layers, and those are actually just going to go right on top like that. And so then I have my kind of Z-fold card, but I'm not going to attach them yet because I want to do the pattern paper. So let me put those aside. And I also have a white on the inside, which is just the 4 by 5 1/4. And so we'll do that as well. Okay, let's put those aside. So I have these two sheets of paper. I don't have much of it left. I think actually could even be my last two pieces of paper, but I wanted to show you how to cut them. We're going to cut them the same vertically, but then we're going to kind of play with the lengths a little bit, and that's because this particular pattern has this horizontal line or horizon line that goes exactly straight across. This one kind of does, but this one, because it's so muted and watercolored, this one we can kind of play with a little bit with the orientation of the paper. So this is the same pattern as this one. So I have that horizontal, or I should say the horizon line. And as you open it up, it stays the same. And then this one, I was trying to remember, I guess that one kind of stays the same. I may have played with, that one's a little fuzzy, so it's hard to tell. This is that same pattern. And then the flower here, I did kind of play with a little bit, so there's no horizon line in here. So as I cut, I'll show you. You can kind of play with the, if you wanted less of one. Let me show you. That might be the easiest thing. All right, so I'm gonna cut both the same. So my directions here are a little bit, so just ignore that part. So we're gonna cut the first measurement at 3 1/4. Then we're gonna cut what's left at 1 7/8, and then you have 7/8 left over. So just ignore the bottom for a second. So I'm gonna cut 3 1/4. And then what's left, I'm just going to put it aside. I'm going to cut 1 7/8. And then what's left there is 7/8. And these are all widths. So I'm going to put those aside for a second. I'm going to cut the second one. I'm going to put them in order here, although I'll be able to tell. So same thing. I'm going to cut 3 1/4. I'm going to cut 1 7/8. And then I have 7/8 left over. So we'll do this one first, because this one we're going to keep that horizon line the same. So for the front, and you can kind of see, because we have the solid borders here, which are the same length as my inside, the two insides. So we need to make the front smaller than those. So let's do the front first. So I'm just going to cut off the bottom, because if I cut off some of the top, that's gonna take away some of this design. So I want this to be 4 3/4 in length here, or height. So unfortunately, I'm cutting off this pretty peacock color, but there's a smidge of it right up here. So that is the same size as what's gonna be on my front. And that's why I said to ignore that first. But now I know the front only is 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. And then the two insides are going to be 5 1/8 long. So I'm going to just start from the top, because I'm not moving things around yet. So I want this to be 5 1/8. So you see how they're slightly different lengths. And this is going to be 5 1/8. All right, so we're using almost all but this of that 6 by 6 piece of paper. So that's pretty good on a card. All right, so this one, I can play around a little bit. So say I wanted you to see a little bit where, you know, something, rivers can flow up or they can flow down. I could say I wanted to play a little bit with my horizon. So now it looks like a river. Here's more of a pond. It's all kind of flat. But if I wanted to kind of turn it into a river, I could move the paper around that way, and I can cut accordingly that way. The other thing I can do, and that's if I use all of those panels showing like that. But for this one, remember I turned one over, so let's see what's on the other side. I could flip that over and put that on the inside. That's a little bit jarring. Brightness wise, if it was a little bit more this color, then I probably would, but it's too much of a difference, so I am going to keep it. So each paper is a little different, so you have to kind of look at all the papers. But I do kind of want my flow to go that way a little bit, so I will cut accordingly. So that means, I'm just trying to think, do I want to cut off some of the sky, or do I want to cut off some of the bottom? I think I'll have to, or you can cut off both, because remember I need it to be this size, so you could either cut off the top completely, you cut off the bottom completely, or you could cut off somewhere in between, which maybe that's what I'll do. All right, so I'm going to leave a tiny little bit of green there. So now I'm going to make this, make sure I have it right, 4 3/4. So I did keep a little bit of that pink sky, which is what I wanted, but you can still tell that's, you know, a body of water. So now this one is going to be a little bit longer. And if I wanted, oh, because I cut off the bottom of the water, actually, that's going to now be the same. That's going to be 5 1/8. So now I'm actually, well, I could actually cut it that way. I wanted it to go up, but I shouldn't have cut the bottom off. But I also want you to see the idea of, I can play with this one a little bit. So I will, this one's going to be 5 1/8. But I did actually want you to, I wanted you to be able to see a little bit of the sky. So I'm just going to, I'll do the same thing. I'll cut a little bit off the top. Cut 5 1/8 on this one. Okay, and that one's on the inside, remember? And then this one has to be 5 1/8. So I'm going to keep the sky on this one because you'll see it poking out on the side. I hope that makes sense to you. But so some of these you can kind of play with a little bit. So now that's kind of my scene there. So it still flows even though I did kind of cut off that horizon. Okay, let's put this together. And actually, I will put this one together so you can see it versus this one. I have other samples to show you that pattern. All right, I'm going to start here. I love this color though, but it's not quite what I was looking for. All right, now I'll put this on top of this. Most of the club used the bubble bath, but some of the patterns didn't quite match the bubble bath, like this one and this one, but most of them did. So that's kind of why I'm using this color that was left over. All right, so now we can, so actually we'll put our white on the inside. I want to make sure I told you, because actually I don't think it's the normal inside layer. I didn't write it down that I usually tell you. It is, it's not, 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and that's to match the papers that we did. So I'm going to put this on the edge. And I like that because you can kind of see the peek through here. That's why I played with some of the measurements. All right, and then this one is going to go right in here. I could have made this just an open and shut card, but then you're kind of cutting some of this beautiful paper off. So I figured this is a nice way of using it all. All right, so then when you open it up, you still have that nice scene. Okay, and then this is going to go like that, and you can kind of peek through and see that. That's why it's smaller. And I'm just going to make sure I only put glue on this section. So it goes only on this section. Like that. So when you open it up, you can open up like that. It's just a nice scene. And so I'll have to find more Misty Moonlight and paper to use this one, but that is the same pattern as this one, so you can kind of see. All right, so then we just have to finish it off with some greeting, because again, I did not want to hide the scene. So we all had choices of send happy thoughts in with sympathy. So they both look nice. So Here, I did this Send Happy Thoughts, and I just added some linen thread around just to give it a little something. But I think for this one, such a calming scene, I actually might do a sympathy. And I can use, I'm trying to use up all my little, like all these little pieces of different types of dimensionals. I'm just going to put it on, not the whole thing, because that's going to overhang, oops, the edge there. I think I'll have it so you can peek through a little bit there. And then I was using, although I just looked them up and realized that these are retired, but you can use other gems, or you can leave it plain or add the linen thread. But I'll just show you in here. This is the annual catalog. Oops. The dragonflies that are done, but the brushed butterflies, those work really nicely, and they're exactly the same. They're just butterfly shapes. So that would be pretty. So I'm just going to stick on some, oops, I just dropped it. It flew away. I usually use tweezers, that's why. Let's see if I can rescue it. It doesn't want me to pick it up. Stick a little dragonfly on there. We'll do 3. The butterflies are nice because you get two different sizes of the butterfly, so then you can do 2 next to each other, which is nice. All right, so that's that. These ones I did the birds. And this one I did the linen thread. All right, so there we go. So this is a form of a Z-fold card that has the fun paper on the inside. So I hope you like it. Let me know in the comments. Love to hear from you guys. And that thoughtful journey, I just lost it in there. I'm not going to find it quick. But anyways, that's in the catalog, and it's gorgeous. And even the back sides of all the watercolor papers are just beautiful as well. So I hope you like it. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Christine Josti of Mail Something Pretty. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.